We continue now at the top of Daf Ayin Gimel Amud Aleph and Meseches Avodah Zara. This is Avodah Zarah Daf 73a. On the previous summit, the Gemara was discussing whether one can drink with kinishkinin. Kinishkinin are kinds of tubes or straws that are in a vessel, and everyone drinks together from the same vessel. The vessel has wine in it. And the Gemara in the previous summit said that Rabbi Bar Rav Huna, he went to the house of the Reish Galusa, and he allowed them to drink with kinishkinin. And the Gemara now continues and says, Iko diamri, there are those that say, Rabbi Bar Rav Huna guve ishte bekinishkinin. Rabbi Bar Rav Huna himself, he would drink from the kinishkinin. And we will take a look at Tosas over here. Iko diamri, Rabbi Bar Rav Huna guve ishte bekinishkinin. Tema, it's a wonder. Heicha yashosa bekinishkinin. How could he drink from this? Nihida lo have a chibur. Granted that we're saying it's not considered to be a connection, and therefore it's not considered to be that he's drinking from the wine of the Oved Kochavim from Yayin Nesech. But Mikol Makom, nevertheless, Hayalo Lachash, he should be concerned, Dilma Pasuk Kadim Bereisha Oved Kochavim, that maybe the Oved Kochavim would stop drinking first. This was mentioned on the previous Amud. On the previous Amud, it said that if the Oved Kochavim stops drinking first, so then whatever's in his tube is going to go down into the shared vessel, and you will have a problem of Yayin Nesech in such a situation. And so therefore, Rabbi Bar Rav Huna should be concerned anytime he's drinking from the Kinishkinin that the Oved Kochavim is going to stop drinking first, and that should be a problem. Why wasn't that a concern? And Tosas continue, Perush Rach, the Rach, Rabbeinu Chananel explains, the Lo Mairi Im HaOved Kochavim, we're not talking here about drinking together with an Oved Kochavim, with a non-Jew. Elisha Yashosa Im Yisrael Bekinishkinin, rather he was drinking with another Jew using these kinds of tubes. And so Tosas asked him, Tomar, if so, Im Kain Mai Kamashmal, and if so, what's the Chiddush? Of course you're allowed to drink together with another Jew from the Kinishkinin. Why would that be a concern at all? And Tosas answer, Yeshlomer, we can answer the Kamashmal, it's teaching us, the Lo Mitzar Bizman Hazem Mishum Simcha, that it's not also to do this nowadays because of Simcha. Maybe one would say that you're not allowed to have so much Simcha nowadays and you can't use this. That's what we're trying to say. This excludes the opinion that says in Mesechet Shabbos that it's actually forbidden to drink from Kinishkinin nowadays. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Yain Nesech Aser, Yain Nesech is forbidden, Vi Oser B'cholshu, and it also forbids something else, that it falls into a mixture, even if it is the smallest amount. Yayin B'yayin, if it's wine that falls into wine, Umayim B'mayim, or water that falls into water, B'cholshu, even the smallest amount is going to create an Isser, is going to create a prohibition. Yayin B'mayim, Umayim B'yayin, now let's say wine falls into water, or water falls into wine, b'nosein tam. So then if it imparts a taste, that's when it's going to create a prohibition. Zeh haklal, this is the general rule. Min b'mino b'mashu, if it's of the same kind, then the smallest amount will create a prohibition. V'shelo b'mino, but if it's not of the same kind, b'nosein tam, then it creates the prohibition if it imparts taste. Rashi explains, Umayim b'mayim, water in water. That's talking about mayim shenis naschu la'avodas kochavim. That's talking about water that is poured as a libation to Avoda Zara, similar to Yayin Nesech. Naflu b'mayim deheter. That water falls into water that was mutter. And so again, if it's mayim b'mayim, it's going to aser b'chol shehu. And the Gemara says, Ki Yasser Rav Dimi Amar Rav Yochanan, when Rav Dimi came, he said that Rav Yochanan said, Hama'ara Yain Nesech Mechavis Labor, if somebody pours Yain Nesech from a barrel into a pit, Afilu Kala Yom Kulo, even the entire day, Rishon Batal, as he's pouring one by one, everything will be nullified. The small amount that he pours in, a little at a time, is going to be nullified. And Rashi explains, Rishon Shanafel Batal, the amount that falls in, a little at a time, is going to be nullified, B'yayin Kosher Shababor, in the wine that is kosher, that is in the cistern. You're pouring the Yayin Nesech, which is in the Chavetz, into the bor, which is kosher wine, and so since you're pouring in a little at a time, it's always going to be Batal Umutter Bahana, and therefore it's going to be permitted to get benefit from that. And Rashi continues, V'haida katani l'kamon, and that which we're going to learn later on, Yain Nesech shenafa labor. It's going to say over there that if Yain Nesech falls into the pit, kulo aser, the entire thing is aser. Seems to be exactly the opposite of what we're saying over here. Muki lo keshenafal bechavis gedola v'nishbra. Over there we're talking where it's in a large barrel and it breaks and falls in. V'nafal kulo ka'echad. It all falls in at once. It's not going in a little at a time. There, the entire thing is going to be forbidden. And the Gemara continues, Tanan, we learned in our Mishnah, Yain Nesech aser, that Yayin Nesech is forbidden, v'oser b'cholshu, and it asers even the smallest amount. So what's our Mishnah talking about? My lav, is it not? The konafal isura l'go heter. It's talking about where the iser falls into the heter. You have a large amount of kosher wine, and then the wine that is Yayin Nesech, it falls in, just the smallest amount falls in, and we're saying that it asers b'cholshu. That's exactly the opposite of what Rabbi Yochanan said above. When Rav Dimi came, he said that Rabbi Yochanan said, when you're pouring the Yayin Nesech into a large amount of wine, we say that a little at a time, it all becomes bottle, so that seems to contradict what our Mishnah is saying. And the Gemara says, lo, no, that's not what the Mishnah means. Rather, the Mishnah means the konofel hetera l'go isura. It means, let's say, yayin that is mutter falls into wine that is usher, and it falls in a little bit at a time. So in such a situation, there we're going to say that the heter does not accumulate and everything becomes mutter. Rather, we're going to say that the heter is going to be bottle, it's going to be nullified. Each time a little bit of heter falls in, it's nullified to the isser, and everything remains usher. And Rashi explains, initially the Gemara assumes that our Mishnah means Lago Hetera, that the Isser is falling into the Heter. V'lo amrinan kama kama batale barov. We don't say that a little bit at a time, it's all nullified in the majority. And then the Gemara said, no, our Mishnah means Hetera Lago Isura. It means that the Heter wine is actually falling into the Isser wine. De kama kama de Hetera batale, and little at a time, the Heter is always nullified, it's always being bottle, and therefore it remains Aser. And the Gemara continues, Tashma, come and hear a proof from the other case in the Mishnah, Yayin b'mayim, let's say the wine falls into water, so benos and tam, when it imparts a flavor, it's going to create a prohibition. And so again, the Gemara says, my lav, is it not? What's happening is that wine of Isser is falling into the water of Heter, and we don't say kama kama bottle, rather we say that once it's nos and tam, then we say that it is in fact Aser. And the Gemara again says, lo, no, that's not what the Mishnah is talking about. Rather, the konafel chamra de Hetera, what's happening is the wine which is mutter is falling into the water which is usher, and therefore the heter, the wine which is mutter, is actually being bottled a little bit at a time, and everything remains usher. That would not contradict what Rav Dimi said from Rabbi Yochanan. But the Gemara continues and asks, but if you're assuming that the Reisha, that first case of the Mishnah, is talking where the water was the one that was usher, in other words, in the situation where it's a yayin b'mayim, the water is the one that's usher, and the small amount of wine, that's the heter. So seifanami, so then when you keep reading the Mishnah, the end of the Mishnah as well, it should be b'maya d'isura. It should be a situation where it is the water that is usher, meaning to say, when it says umayim b'yayin, that water, a small amount of water falls into the yayin, into the wine, the water should be the one of Isser. And so then we are saying it's b'no sein tam, and again it seems to go against Rabbi Yochanan. The Katani Seifa, that's what it says at the end, mayim b'yayin b'no sein tam. It says that when the water goes into the wine, then it's b'no sein tam. So then that part of the Mishnah should go against Rabbi Yochanan. And the Gemara continues and answers, Amar lach Rav Dimi. Rav Dimi will say to you, Kula masnisin hetera l'go isur. The entire Mishnah is always dealing with cases where the heter falls into the isur. V'reisha de kanafel chamer de hetera l'maya de isur. The first part of the Mishnah is when the wine of heter, the wine which is permitted, falls into the water which is asur. And seifa de kanafel maya de hetera l'chamer de isur. And the end of the Mishnah is when the water of heter falls into the wine of isur. And so then again, according to that understanding of the Mishnah, it never goes against what Rav Dimi said from Rabbi Yochanan. And Rashi explains, Hachi Garsinon, this is the proper text, the yayin b'mayim b'nosein tam, if the wine falls into the water, we follow nosein tam, the imparting of taste. My lav chamra d'isur l'go maya d'heter doesn't mean that the wine of Isser is falling into the water of heter, v'chatoni michiyav taima mitzvah, and it says that once the taste is imparted, then it's asur. Hachi Garsinon lo chamra d'heter b'go maya d'isur. Really what it is that the wine is heter and it's falling into the water of Isser. V'yashmin, and it's teaching us the cholkama d'yavi maya taima b'chamra, that as long as the water is imparting its taste to the wine, so itzar, it's going to be forbidden. Ad sheyevatel tam hayayin as tam hamayim, unless you have a situation where the taste of the wine is mevatel, nullifies the taste of the water, and that would be that would be if it all falls at once. To lo efsher lemaya disur levatel, then it wouldn't be possible for the water of Isser to nullify the taste. And Rashi continues, Hachi Garsinon midaresha maya d'isura seifanami maya d'isura v'katani seifa mayim b'yayim b'nosein tam. The Gemara initially asked that if the first part of the Mishnah is the water is the Isser, so the end part of the Mishnah also the water is the Isser. And it says that when the water falls into the wine, it's nosein tam. So again you see that when the water of Isser falls into the wine of Heter, apparently it's been nosein tam. That seems to go against the leniency of Rav Dimi from Rabbi Yochanan. Alma Isura b'go Hetera, you see that when Isser falls into Heter, Afagav deruba de Hetera, even though the majority is heter, lo armin and kama bottle. We don't say that a little bit at a time it's always bottle. And the Gemara then answered, Amalach Rav Dimi. Rav Dimi will say to you, Kula Masis and Hetera B'go Isura. The entire Mishnah is talking where Heter falls into Isser. V'Reisha Maya de Isura, V'Seifa Maya de Hetera. The beginning, the water is Asur. The end, the water is Mutter. And Rashi notes, Ve'ein Halachik Rav Dimi. The halach is not like Rav Dimi. We don't follow this leniency. Sharei Bar Rav Yitzchak V'Hechmer, because Rav Yitzchak is going to come and he's going to be strict. Bar Ravin V'Hechmer, Ravin also is going to come and be strict. U'Lakamon Paskinon, and later on we are going to paskin that Yein Nesech B'Mino B'Mashu, that if you have Yayin Nesech in the same kind, that it creates the prohibition B'Mashu just with the smallest amount. And the Gemara continues, Ki Yasser Rav Yitzchak bar Yosef Amar Rav Yochanan. When Rav Yitzchak bar Yosef came, he said that Rav Yochanan said, Hama'ore Yain Nesach mitzirtzur katan labor. If somebody pours Yain Nesach from a small canteen into a pit, so then Afilo Kol Hayom Kulo, then even if he's doing it the whole day, Rishon Batel, then we say that leniency, that a little bit at a time, it's always going to be nullified. But V'dav Tzirtzur katan, but only when it's a small canteen, the Lo Nafesh Amude, where the stream is not so strong, Aval Chavis, but if it is a barrel, the Nafesh Amude, which has a strong stream low, then no, we would not be lenient in such a case. And the Gemara continues, Kiyasa Ravin Amar Rabbi Yochanan. When Ravin came, he said that Rabbi Yochanan said, Yein nesech shenafal labor, if you have yain nesech that fell into a cistern of wine, v'nafal sham kiton shalmayim, and a pitcher of water fell in there as well, roen es haheter ki'ilu eno, we view the heter as if it is not there, v'hashar mayim rabin olav, and the rest of it we say that the water is the majority, umevalin oso, and it can nullify it. And Rashi explains, roen es haheter ki'ilu eno, we don't count the wine which was in the pit, which was mutter. The point over here is we don't say that when a little bit of yayin nesach fell into the cistern of wine, that all of that wine becomes considered like iser. And if we would have said that, v'raba hayayin al hamayim, then we would say that there's actually more wine of iser than water. Because the wine overall is the majority, even though it was just a small amount of yayin nesach that fell in. But if we're going to say that the yayin nesach makes all of the wine in the cistern yayin nesach, then you're going to have iser that will be the majority. But rather, we don't say that ella be'isr shenafal greda misharin, and when we're comparing the water to the wine, we look at the amount of water versus the amount of actual yayin nesach, actual isr yayin, v'ikab maya ruba, and the water is the majority, and that's how we can say that the yayin nesach is bottle in that case. But the point over here, says Rashi, is alma polig Ravin ad Ravdimi. You see that Ravin also argues on Ravdimi. Ve'ashminan demayahud mevatel chamra. He says that we're able to use this in order to say that the water nullifies the wine. Aval chamra lo mevatel chamra. But he does not say that the wine is mevatel the wine. He doesn't say kama bottle, that a little at a time it is always bottle. And the Gemara continues, Kiyasar Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda Amar Rav Yochanan. When Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda came, he said that Rav Yochanan said, Lo shanu el shenafal kiton shal mayim tchila. That's only true if the pitcher of water fell in first. Avalo nafal sham kiton shal mayim tchila. But if the pitcher of water did not fall in first, motza min esmino v'neir, then we say that the similar kinds found one another. The wine finds the wine, and it awakens it, so to speak. And Rashi explains, Techila, Kodem yayin nesach, before the yayin nesach fell in, that's when the water fell in. Techi nafal yayin nesach ashkechu amayu v'talua. That way, when the yayin nesach does fall in, the water finds it, so to speak, and nullifies it. But if the wine falls in first, then motza min esmino, then the similar kinds find one another, levasof v'neir, and it causes it to awaken. Kilomar nischazik, it means like it strengthens. V'nitosav isuro v'raba yayin alamayim. Then we're already going to say that all of the wine is included in our calculation, and there's more wine than water, and we would say that it is aser. And the Gemara continues, Zika de masni la masnisin. There are those that learn the statement of Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda that we just mentioned, that statement was actually going on a line in the Mishnah. The Mishnah said, Yayin beyayin, that if wine falls into wine, kolshu, then we say that it asers by a kolshu, even the smallest amount. And Amar Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda, Amar Rav Yochanan, Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda says that Rav Yochanan says, Lo shanu ela shalon nafal sham kiton shal mayim. That's only true if a pitcher of water did not fall in there. Aval nafal sham kiton shal mayim, but if a pitcher of water fell in there, roen es haheter kilu eno, then we view the heter like it's not there. V'hashar mayim rabin olav u'mevatlano. So when we look at the rest of the water, and we say that the water is the majority, and it's mevatl it nullifies it. And Rashi explains, V'ika demasni l'had Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda masnisin. There are those that learn the teaching of Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda on our Mishnah. And the Gemara continues and explains, Ma'ika bein l'demasni la masnisin bein l'demasni la Ravin. What's the difference if you're learning the statement of Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda on the Mishnah, or if you're learning the statement of Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda on the statement of Ravin? And the Gemara explains, Man demasni la masnisin, the one that learns the statement on the Mishnah, lo boy tchila, you don't even need to have that the pitcher of water falls in first. If there is a pitcher of water, whether it falls in first or whether it falls in at the end, we look at the heter like it's not there, and we say that the mayim is mevatel. Uman demasni la Ravin. But if you learn the teaching of Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda on what Ravin said, so then boy tchila, then the whole point is that the water needs to fall in first in order for the water to be mevatel. And Rashi explains, Man demasni la masnisan lo boy tchila, the one who learns it on the Mishnah doesn't need tchila, meaning va'afilu nafal kiton levasof, even if the pitcher of water falls in at the end, svir le de mevatlin mayim es isser, he holds that the water can be mevatel the isser. Again, when you have a yayin b'yayin, it asers becholshu, but if the water falls in, even if it falls in at the end, it will be mevatel the isser. Uman demasni amil say the ravin boy tchila, but the one who learns it on the statement of Ravin, so he says that it needs to be that the water falls in first. Dilav techila asalashmin, because if it's not teaching us this halach of techila, my kamash malon, then it wouldn't be teaching us anything. Haravin nami hachikama. Ravin also was talking about water in that situation, meaning to say, in Ravin's case, there was already water mentioned. Ravin said again, Ki asa Ravin amar Rabbi Yochanan, Yei nesech shenafal labor, v'nafal sham kiton shalmayim. There is a kiton shalmayim, rowan asaheter kiloeno, v'ashar mayim rabin olav umevatlino. So the whole point was that we look at the heter like it's not there, and we say that the water can be mevatel. So obviously, if it's on that statement that Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda is making a statement, and he's talking about the water, he must be talking about tchila, because Ravin already mentions the water, and so then again, Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, when Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda would come and say that Rabbi Yochanan says the water specifically has to fall first. That's if you're learning, again, the statement on Ravin. If you're learning it on the Mishnah, then he's just mentioning the water, but it doesn't necessarily need to fall in first. And the Gemara continues, Itmar, it was stated, Yei nesech shenafa labor, if you have yayin nesech that falls into a cistern of wine, v'nafal sham kiton shalmayim, and a pitcher of water falls there, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Ayin Gimel Amid Beis.